Welcome everyone to this new Greytalk. Today's title is A Refugee Odyssey, and we have with us Mohammad SHEHADAT and Anja Klug. Their complete bios will be included in the recording of this Greytalk, but just for the record and for the information of those who don't know them, I would like to share with you a few elements of their bio. In 2012, the conflict forced Mohammad to flee his hometown of Syria to a refugee camp in Jordan. Later, he took a course on peacebuilding with Amala Education. Upon completing the course, Mohammad felt a distinct lack of understanding of the subject among young people, especially refugees. Determined to bridge the gap, Mohammad turned his attention to equipping young people with the necessary skills and training so they could become global citizens. Mohammad was able to pursue his studies in business through a UNESCO scholarship program and continue helping Syrian refugees resume their education and gain new skills. Mohammad is a member of the UNESCO Global Youth Community and a Kofi Annan Changemaker. We are also delighted to have with us Anja Klug, boasting over 25 years of experience with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. She has shaped regional strategies in response to significant refugee movements and has led the UNHCR office for Switzerland and Liechtenstein. After studying law in Bonn and Lausanne, she made her mark by addressing her topics such as the harmonization of asylum law within the EU and refugee protection in Europe. We're honored to have her with us, as well as Mohammad. Finally, I would like to thank Anja Klug, who has been Mohammad's mentor in the context of the Greytalk's partnership with the Kofi Annan Foundation, and Mohammad, who has been the overall coordinator on behalf of Greytalk of the Kofi Annan Changemakers program. They both have been more than mentors to the Changemakers. They have been more than godmother and godfather for them. Thank you very much to both of you for facilitating this Greytalk. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Geshe in Geneva or to Mohan in Singapore, whoever is going to take the lead in this Greytalk. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Geshe, for this opportunity to speak to the panel. Of course, a very good afternoon to all of you over there from Singapore. It's almost midnight. Let me give you a very short introduction on Mohammad SHEHADAT so that we can get this program running. It gives me great privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Mohammad SHEHADAT, to today's Greytalk. I was privileged too to mentor Mohammad, who was selected from over 100 participants as a Kofi Annan Changemaker in 2022. Mohammad's journey, a sad one, from Syria to a refugee camp in Jordan, and last year to another camp in the Netherlands, and now living as a free person in Switzerland, is a compelling story. There is only admiration for his journey and for what he had encountered when he and his family had to flee Syria and seek refuge in Jordan. And more importantly, what Mohammad learned, what he developed, and what Mohammad shared in his journey. This is a true example of someone who just refuses to give up. Mohammad's determination to seek out what was best for himself and to assist others in a similar situation formed the basis of his 100 Global Citizens project that he founded in Jordan about 3 years ago, and that was seed funded by the Kofi Annan Changemakers program. Now, how did this project, this 100 Global Citizens, come about? In 2019, Mohammad founded the Youth for Peace initiative while in Jordan, and it is Mohammad's firm belief that education, this is what always resonates with Mohammad, education is the key that will transform his life and to seek a better future. At the Youth for Peace initiative, he and his team launched the Own War project to capture refugee experiences, to raise awareness and increase refugee representation at the international fora. Then giving these refugees another insight into their rights and opportunities was a natural development of Mohammad's work, hence the 100 Global Citizens. But this is where he excels most. Mohammad never lost sight of getting an education. This education was complemented by various training in data analysis, project management, intercultural competency in education, to name just a few of what Mohammad has achieved. I shall leave lots of time for Mohammed to tell his story, but let me conclude with this. His journey has brought him to Switzerland, where he now lives as a free person. It took him more than 10 years to achieve this. He got here because Mohammed never gave up. What will he do next? Well, let's find out from Mohammed. Thank you.
I think now it is over to Mohammed to tell us his story, and later on we will have comments from Anja Klug on possibly the legal side, but maybe also some procedural issues as they come up. And if in the meantime there are comments, Manuela is with us and keeping the check on the chat. So put comments on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and many thanks to Greytalk to having me today in this Greytalk. My story has been started. My story started when I was living in Syria in 2010, and due to the conflict and war in Syria, I had to flee and to go to Jordan, which is a border country with my city in Syria. I lived in Jordan for 10 years as an asylum seeker, registered under the UNHCR protection in Jordan. And during this period, it's long period, I was able to be well integrated in the Jordanian community and be independent person. And I seek many opportunities, like education opportunity. As the last scholarship I got from the UNESCO in Jordan, and it was funded by the Korean embassy. Last year, I got an invitation from Kofi Annan Foundation to participate in the Kofi Annan Changemakers program, which was held in Geneva last year in November. And it was the first time I'm traveling from Jordan. And when I arrived in Geneva, I was surprised in Jordan with the decision of the Jordanian authorities when they asked me to sign a re-entry ban. They said it's impossible to travel without signing on this decision because you are living here in Jordan as an asylum seeker and you are not an official resident in this country. Moreover, you are going to a country can host you and can accept you as a refugee in Switzerland. The story doesn't stop here in Switzerland because I had no more choice to thinking about this problem and this challenge. The response from the UNHCR here in Geneva was very quick, and they advised me to seek asylum here in Switzerland because I'm already here, or thinking about another country if I have relatives or family members or something. This story also started when I went to the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, I went to the Netherlands to seek asylum because seeking asylum, it was not an option in my mind when I came here to Switzerland. I just came here for a few days to participate in this program and go back again to Jordan. In the Netherlands, they welcomed me and they told me after I explained why I came to Netherlands. They told me you was in Switzerland and you was able to seek asylum there. So why you came here? I told them I came here because I'm already a member at the United Network of Young Peacebuilders, which based in the Netherlands, and also I worked in Jordan with the program. It's funded by the Dutch government, and also I heard a lot of positive things for young people and for young refugees in the Netherlands. They told me you are welcome, and we're gonna through the procedures with the law. Regulation, and we're gonna contact the Swiss authorities, and then after that we will decide if you are able to stay here or go back there. So more details will coming up. After 5 months of staying in the Netherlands, the decision was the Dutch government they received a response from the Swiss authorities. It was a Dublin claim. They told me the Swiss authorities, they accepted the responsibility for your case. So we advise you to go back there, because here in the Netherlands, if you decide or if you're thinking about appealing this decision, it's gonna take a long time, up to 1 year and more. I decided to come back here again to Switzerland, and I came back to Switzerland in last May, and I did all interviews and the whole procedures in the Switzerland, and I'm now a recognized refugee in Switzerland.
Oh, that was a peripple, but I think quite a lot of your decisions were really, they were influenced by authorities who told you to come back to Switzerland, but also by laws that actually allowed the Netherlands authorities to ask for permission back to Switzerland and for Switzerland to receive you. But quite a lot of your arrival in Europe was actually linked to your activism. Quick question. Do you regret having gotten into all this?
Yeah, regarding my activism, when I was in Jordan, as I said, when I contacted the UNHCR, they told me we might solve this issue with the Jordanian authorities, but it might take a long time. Moreover, if we're gonna solve this later, you might lose your opportunity to get a new visa in the future to Europe. Also here in Switzerland, contacted many people here in Switzerland and outside to get an advice or to get like a recommendation or something to do. Many people advise me to go outside, to go to another country, because a lot of negatives or a lot of ideas or negative ideas about Switzerland, they encourage them to advise me to seek another country. Even here in Switzerland, when I was in Geneva, I heard a lot of negative things, like someone a young refugee from Afghanistan, he killed himself because the procedures takes a long time, the opportunities, the integration, the differences of permits for refugees. That's encouraged me seriously to thinking about traveling to other country, because I already lived in Jordan for 10 years, but I had a long experience in living this life of asylum, living as a refugee. Also, in the Netherlands, many people, they told me here it's a very good country for young people, for educated people, for people who has hopes or ideas or something to do in their future. Also thinking about Sweden or any other country, they told me, of course, you will face this problem regarding the Dublin law or Dublin regulation. There is a specific point in this law. All these countries or the member countries, they have they have their own choice if they want to overcome this law and keep you in their countries. It's up to them. And that's what's happened. When I arrived to the Netherlands, they told me when they asked me what's your activity, what you was doing in Switzerland. When I explained, I talked everything about my activism, my background, and they told me this is really strange case, because most of the people who are coming here in Netherlands and they have fingerprints in Italy, in Greece, in Germany, in these cross countries. So in Switzerland, it's something strange, but we really would like to keep you here in the Netherlands, but we're gonna through the procedures, because we have to Switzerland and contact them, and if they reject this request, of course you can stay here and we're gonna responsible about your case and your procedures. But if they will accept, you have to go there or starting the appeal procedures, and that's everything will be explained by your lawyer. So yeah, I stayed there for 5 months, and after that I came back here to Switzerland, and And also, of course, I can talk about the differences based on this experience in the Netherlands and in Switzerland.
Thank you. I think we'll pass the word to some comments to Anja Klug on the giving us maybe the legal mirror of what we've just heard, and then we might get into a discussion on what are the opportunities for refugees to leave first asylum countries for educational reasons, for other reasons, and the specific case of Jordan might be indeed specific, but there is Lebanon, there is Turkey in the vicinity of Syria, and have many thousands of Syrian refugees in their countries. Anja,
thank you
over
so
to
much, and thank you also for the invitation, and thank you, Mohammad, also for sharing your experiences, because I think it's not easy to talk about this all the time. So for us, it's very useful because it helps us to demonstrate some of the challenges maybe, but also some of the good points of asylum systems in the world and in Europe. I have to say, when I listened first to you, when you told me first time your story, I really thought that yeah, how it must have felt for you to be in a situation where the country where you have been living in for 10 years just tells you cannot go back. You are not the only person. I mean, it's a known practice of the Jordanese authorities that they do not take back people. And I mean, you have well explained the reason, because refugees are not considered to be legally in Jordan. I mean, it's basically a gracious act that they can stay there. But I think for you, it must have felt really awful to be displaced for a second time from a country where you have built up relationships. And then the experience you have made here in Europe probably also was quite puzzling for you. I would like to, because we are focusing today a little bit on Europe, but I mean, then you can ask questions, of course, to compare, because in Europe, we have started to work on to harmonize the asylum systems of European states, to work towards a common European asylum system in starting in the 80s, I have to say, with the first instruments that were put in place, late 80s and then in the 90s. Switzerland is not part of the European Union, as you know, as everybody knows, but Switzerland has joined some of the instruments of the European Union. I think what's important to see, and that's why UNHCR has always supported the harmonization of European asylum laws, is, the objective, of course, was to create standards that are applicable across Europe first, and then also to make sure that people who seek asylum have one state, are not being sent back from one state to the next, because when I started, this was sometimes still the case that, then, maybe Netherlands would have told you, no, you cannot stay here, and Switzerland might have said the same. So we had some situations of what we called refugees in orbit, so refugees that were sent back and forth between different European countries without having the possibility to apply for asylum. So the system also tried to address this problem of these refugees in orbit, on the one hand, and on the other hand, also avoid that people go from one country to the next, because it costs a lot of resources to examine an asylum application. So all of this was supported by UNHCR, because we think that's, in general, this is a way, this was a very good idea. But the way this then translated into practical legal laws was not exactly what we had in mind. And I have to tell you, this case asked me to talk about the Dublin, so we talk about the Dublin system. I mean, the comments we have from UNHCR side have not changed for the last, since I work for UNHCR, and that's more than 25 years. So what we see good that we don't have refugees in orbit. It's very good that we also support the fact that people cannot, go through several asylum procedures in several European states. But there are a number of challenges with the Dublin system as it has been set up. Namely, first, and I think that was probably the first point important for you, it's basically there's very little room for refugees to make choices. And unfortunately, we see that's not a development only in Europe or within the Dublin system, it's in general. I mean, there's no, under international law, refugees are not prohibited to seek asylum where they want, but states have limited that freedom to choose the asylum country throughout the last 25 years more and more. And I mean, in the Dublin system, it's very exceptional. I mean, refugees' choices are only taken into account when it comes to family, children, and some other exceptions. So that's the first point, of course, which is difficult and that you found very difficult. Secondly, what we see is, and what we have always said, is that the system, because it focuses on the country that mostly on the country where people have entered first. In your case, it was not the case, it was your visa, but it's still also the country where you entered the European Union, the Europe, it's not the European Union, is putting a lot of pressure on the countries at the outer border of the European Union or the Schengen space, I mean, including Switzerland. And some of them are overloaded. They don't have the resources, which means that they have tried to defer their responsibility. And there's no system yet in place to share responsibilities a little bit more equally. They have been trying to put this in place, but it hasn't worked yet. There are now some legislative developments to put some solidarity mechanisms in. So maybe we will see in the future some very few first steps towards better sharing of responsibilities among European countries. And this, the third, and I would then stop with this first, the third point, which I think is very important, because the system, like the Dublin system, is only working, and it's based on the assumption that asylum systems are comparable among European states participating in the system, which we see is not the case. I mean, that's not so much a problem that you face because the system, the standards in the Netherlands and Switzerland are very comparable. But if you happen to enter via a country of Central European country, or even Greece or the Southern European country, and you compare that system with the Northern European system, you will see huge differences. They have been diminished over time, but there's still a big difference whether you have a status in Bulgaria or you have a status in Sweden.
Thank you. I think this is for the first round of information. I think we already have 2 questions.
Well, 3 actually. Right. The first one is a very practical but a very important one. Somebody is asking if in Switzerland there is some sort of helpline or center of information where people in need can ask for valuable and reliable information regarding the laws, regimes, the protection that they can have according to their situation. This is the first question.
Should I answer it immediately?
Otherwise, I can take the others as you prefer.
I think it will be good, because I know it is also on Mohammed's mind.
It's very quick. I can now give you a very quick question, because UNHCR has a specific website on Switzerland, and there's a helpline. I mean, it's yellowed. Just on the bottom of the page, you will find a help page in English, because the rest is in German and French of our Swiss side, where you can find information and also references to other sites where there is, even because ours it's quite short, because there's a lot of information being provided by the Swiss government, and there's a lot of information provided by the Swiss Refugee Council, and we also refer to these sites.
And also in that same context regarding Switzerland, another question refers to lack of harmony within Switzerland and the different cantons, the regime of each one of the cantons and the practical issues that are related to that. So what can you tell us about that? Within Switzerland, the differences between the cantons.
Okay, I mean, Switzerland is a very small country, but it has a complex organization. And with regard to the area of asylum, you have some responsibilities which rest with the federation. So the asylum procedure, the recognition, the first accommodation during the asylum procedure is a federal responsibility. And thereafter, once people have been recognized, mostly there are some other people are being referred to the cantons. And then indeed you have 26 cantons with 26 different laws. I mean, there are some overarching legal framework, international law and Swiss federal law, but indeed there are cantonal laws that come into place in addition, which differ, of course. I have to say, I mean, I'm German, so I'm also coming from a state which is, divided in different länder. I think you have to always see two things. I mean, there are different standards in the cantons to a certain degree. I mean, it's not totally different, of course. Of course, those that are in cantons that have less standards, obviously will look towards the other, saying why these standards are not being applied. So, but on the other hand, you have to see, I mean, if we harmonize standards, there's always the risk that you harmonize downwards. So it's also, I sometimes think, I'm very happy about the fact that you have federal structure in Switzerland, because it allows some more progressive cantons to also develop further, and we can use those good practices also to encourage the other cantons to follow.
Yes, if I may, yes, sir. I would like to ask for a clarification.
Yes.
I would like to ask for a clarification. The first point you made to Mohammed is that he may not have come to Europe if he had not been an activist. Now, I understand from your story that it is actually the fact that you had to come to Europe as a Kofi Annan Changemaker that confronted you with a policy of the Jordanese authorities not to let you come back. Now, when you were living in Jordan for 10 years in a refugee camp, I understand that you were active already. You had set up education programs and so on. But while you were doing that, you never came to the attention of the Jordanese authorities, or they felt it was perfectly okay? And was it from the moment that you had that opportunity to go to Europe that they told you, okay, well and good, you can go, but you cannot come back? And of course, related to that, linked to that, when you started, so to speak, being active at a level that was recognized internationally, whether the Kofi Annan Foundation, or I understand UNESCO, you're part of a program with UNESCO. Were you aware at that time, or did it occur to you that in fact it may very well change your life and open a completely new chapter where you would have to move actually to another part of the world and further away from where you grew up and had been living for 10 years? Thank you.
Actually, the point that you are mentioned, the issue with the Jordanian authorities, that doesn't happen with me only or individually. I remember when I was in the airport, I just looked at when I had to sign on the decision, I just looked at the desk and I found a lot of IDs for Syrian refugees. And also I remember someone, he was working at the airport, he told me, you are lucky because you are going to a country let's say you're a refugee, you are Syrian. So I told him, okay, what about other people who are going to countries that they doesn't accept refugees? I remember also when I came to Geneva, I had also in the same day I had an invitation to attend the a conference with the United Nations in Morocco. After I arrived here, my mentor Mohan, he told me, you are lucky here in Morocco. It will be really a big problem, because in Morocco you will be under the UNHCR and waiting for resettlement and waiting. It's taking long time, long years, as I lived in Jordan. And also in Jordan, a lot of people they waiting for resettlement opportunities to be resettled in legal ways in Europe or in other countries that hosting or accepting refugees. But as you said, my background and my activism in Jordan, of course, led to reach this this level of what I'm in today in Europe. Also, I remember when I had a meeting in Geneva with the UNHCR to get legal consultancy about my procedure. I remember when I met someone at the UNHCR, he told me, look, if you go to Sweden or Netherlands, 70% they might send you back here, but you will not lose anything. We are with you because you wish to go to but at the end, it's the decision of the authorities of these countries. If you can explain your reasons why you go to the Netherlands and going. In the Netherlands, I remember the only thing that encouraged me seriously to come back to Switzerland, because the procedure is taking long years in the Netherlands. Also, here we are talking about the negative sides and positive sides, even in Switzerland or the Netherlands. Of course, it's a global issue. It's a big issue. That's refugees, especially after they took large waves of Ukrainian refugees who came to Europe. But at the end, I just try to overcome this situation. I remember someone in the Netherlands, he told me, if you waited for 6 months and you didn't seek asylum, the Dutch authorities, they will accept you, because after 6 months, the visa holders, the Schengen visa holders, they were not the countries who issued their visa, they will be not responsible about them after 6 months. I told them I cannot imagine my life just waiting 6 months in country illegally. It's no way. I met many people in Jordan, like my friends. They came to Europe and they came through dangerous ways in the sea and in Turkey and other countries. I advised them but sometimes when we're talking about the life of refugees and the challenges of refugees, they said, yes, it's dangerous, but at least it's gonna be better than this situation. Especially for Syrian refugees who still here we are talking about 10 years of sufferings and a lot of challenges in the host communities, and also as you see now in Lebanon, the many unfortunate accidents towards the refugees who was living in the camps, and so also in other countries. So as we see today.
You said there was another question?
Well, there is now a new one.
It's now a new one, because otherwise I also have a question, but it's on
Well, what I just said, so I would like to flag it because it's a sort of follow-up. It is a comment. You have been refugees in Jordan for many years, and then a short time in Europe. Now you have attained Swiss residency, a work permit. So what is your impression of the opportunities that are available to you in Switzerland? For example, in Jordan, getting help from the national authorities was very difficult. Here in Switzerland, you are getting apparently much more opportunities. So this is a statement rather than a question. But when now get you involved in helping other refugees as you did in Jordan, what are your plans?
Generally, after this experience, I became an expert in the Dublin law and the asylum procedures. Even sometimes people calling me from Netherlands, Germany, they told me I just crossed Switzerland and I had fingerprints there. They advise me. And also regarding the actions and the work that I used to do in Jordan, I'm still leading my organization, Youth for Peace Initiative in Jordan, and we're still working on developing and making our project sustainable, which we recently received the third fund of implementing our project, which Mohan talked about during the introduction. And also here in Switzerland, regarding the opportunities, after I got the status, I just went to the host place where I'm residing in, and I told them I have qualification and I need to provide it to be recognized to the Swiss standards of qualifications. They told me, okay, we have to ask the authorities in the camp to do that. In the Netherlands, even the people who doesn't got status yet, if they have like qualifications or something, they just going to the authorities or the people who are working in the camps and just providing them the qualifications, and directly they telling them it's then it's equal to the Dutch standards or qualifications or not. Here in Switzerland, I recently did an interview with the integration office, and they told me they focus mainly on the language. So after the language, of course, there will be opportunities to education, to make house building or training or career studying or something like that. But here in Switzerland, based on my experience, everything is hard because you cannot get the right information easily. I remember when I was in Zurich before my interview, I just received an invitation from my lawyer, and I was surprised when she told me your interview will be tomorrow. And I told her, okay, I know that I'm not expert in this matter, but I heard the interview should be 1 week at least before the interview, because the person who had the interview, he has to prepare to collect documents to make practice in the interview. She told me, and also I feel like it's the first time she's looking into my documents and my papers, but it's not a problem. But the problem is about accessing the information. After I got the status, I just want to make sure and to know I'm able to change my current residence canton or not. Can I move to another canton or not? And it was not easy. It was really impossible to. It was really hard to access this kind of information. Just tried at the end. I just was thinking about contacting the UNHCR, but the UNHCR, I noticed, as Anja said, the website of UNHCR, they mentioned that the UNHCR they cannot provide like a legal assistance or something individually for asylum seekers or refugees in Switzerland. Of course, they mentioned some organizations and some places that asylum seekers can contact and talking with them regarding access, regarding having this kind of information.
Yeah, you want to comment a little bit because there are two different things. Maybe we focus first on the asylum procedure in Switzerland, where I can say that the Swiss have over a period of 10 years introduced a reform of the asylum procedure, which makes it quicker, but also more fair than it was before. And I mean, even though you see this a little bit critically, I think, the fact that you were so quickly recognized as a refugee is really something which we think is very because we have many countries in Europe and elsewhere that reject cases very quickly, which they consider to be manifestly unfounded. But for people like Mohammed, who is manifestly found a refugee because he has already been a refugee, this might take years, So within the new system, within a couple of months, even weeks, you were recognized, you got a status, you knew you have a right to stay. that's very positive. You mentioned the lawyer. I mean, another very positive part of the Swiss asylum system is that legal counseling and legal advice during the asylum procedure is being granted to everybody, regardless, free of charge. So that's something that we don't have in other European asylum systems. Might not be perfect, but at least there is this part. And for us, it was a very important component of the new asylum system, because if you try to process cases so quickly, you need somebody to take care of you, to make sure that all the good arguments are put on the table quickly. You were lucky, I have to say. Many Syrians are not recognized as refugees. That's one of the big challenges that we see, and where we are trying to, we and many other actors in Switzerland try to draw attention to very often, is that Switzerland applies very restrictive definition of a refugee. So many Syrians and also people from other countries are not recognized as refugees. They are recognized, they only get their case, their claim for refugees that is rejected, and they get a provisional admission. And so then that's a really totally different story. You have much more reduced rights, because you now, and I think it's very good from my perspective that you decided to go back to Switzerland, because you now are recognized. You have a travel document. You can go anytime to the Netherlands for short periods of time. You have the freedom to travel. You have a legal status, so you are secure. If you had been granted a provisional admission, no right to travel, you cannot leave to Switzerland. It's very difficult for people, and it's most Syrians only have a provisional admission. So that's really a big challenge, and it means it's much more difficult to be integrated. Even you are describing challenges for you. No comparison if you have a provisional admission, because you are limited in all the rights you have. So that's one of the challenges that we see that in the system, which has unfortunately not changed with the reform. I'm not sure. Shall we go directly now to the integration issues that you mentioned?
I think they are very much linked, and I had a question in that context. The different permits that allow you different integration in the end, and allow you different freedoms. I heard Godfather Mohan saying that Mohammed is now a free man. Yes, I think it's very much with the full refugee status, you become a free person again, in the sense that you have a travel document, and with that travel document you can actually move again. Whereas with other statuses, this is not the case. And I think it's probably also blocking in Switzerland, maybe a little bit less than in other countries in Europe, blocking the integration of people who just have a stay permit but don't have full refugee status. So that would have been my next question. So please, if you want to comment on that, that would be very nice.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as I said before, if these two different stages mean for that your chances, or the time in which you can integrate, it will be much more difficult if you only have a provisional admission. So for us, like I would say, I mean, it's so happy. I mean, very happy to hear that you have been recognized as a refugee, because you have the best basis that you could have, even though that's already changing. But so there is differences, even though even people who have a provisional admission have the right to work, they are supported, but it's everything is a little less than for refugees. You were describing, and I find this always interesting to hear how difficult it is to get access to information, because there's a lot of information that exists honestly, but it's obviously not reaching the audience, because you're not the first person who tells us. We always try to give the feedback also to the authorities that the information needs to be more easily available. But unfortunately, it seems to be still a big challenge. So, I mean, I've taken note of this, and we have to think a little bit. We have our website, but the authorities have sites, and but it's not enough. And I remember we had, it's also the perspective of refugees and, you know, of somebody who comes newly to a country, doesn't speak the language, is not familiar with structures. It's very difficult to put yourself in these shoes. So I think there's some work to be done on, you know, trying to provide information in a way that it is accessible. Because if it's not accessible to somebody like you, can you imagine somebody who is not having the same educational background than you have to get access to information?
What about the canton? He asks, if I understood correctly, you still have not received an answer whether, with, you know, as a recognized refugee, can he actually settle in another canton than the canton where he's actually living?
Yes, I mean, that's the freedom of movement within the country. There we have some international framework. There we have the 1951 Convention on the Status of Refugees that provides freedom of movement with some restrictions, but this, and normally recognized refugees have that freedom of movement. We now recently heard about some practices which we are trying to address, where cantons have decided to limit that freedom of movement if people are dependent on social aid. But in our position is that this is not in line with the 51 Convention.
Thanks. Manuela, there was one more question.
Yes,
and I think
yes, there is here somebody saying, I have a related query concerning refugees facing legal or reintegration challenges under the authorities' program. Has there been any policy level review or analysis conducted, or are there ongoing advocacy efforts through task forces or forums to address these issues?
I can just mention something quickly regarding this point. From my experience and overview, not only me, other refugees, because we are always sharing our experiences to give the benefits, to get the right way to, or the correct way in the procedures of what we're gonna do. Switzerland, as Anja said, it's a federal system or confederate system, and including 26 cantons. In my overview and during my experience, I noticed there's specific policies, specific rules, specific differences in each canton. And regarding the integration, sometimes you can find cantons they supporting the integration process other than other cantons. And also regarding the well-being, the payments, the accommodation, I heard from during grieving, sometimes I heard about cantons they putting the refugees or asylum seekers under the ground, and other countries they refuse to do that. They said we at least we might put the young people, the women and children. It's shame to put these groups like the women or children under the ground. Are here in Switzerland, not in the other place. So also regarding the integration process. I recently, as I said, I got an invitation to start it or to make a conversation with the canton about the integration process. I told them I just have the initiative to ask the people who are working in my residence place to be integrated as soon as I can. And also I told them about they said yes, they told us about that you have qualification, you have good background, you have many things to do. But the main thing, I say it again, the main thing that they focus on the language. So I told them recently I got a fully funded scholarship to study at the University of London, and it will be paid by the university. So the canton or the government, they will not pay anything. They said they were happy to hear this news and to do them. I told them I have to do the exams, the tests every while in Geneva or Bern or Zurich. They say we cannot help you in that. That's because it's you have to go to these cantons and ask them to who want to come and live or be integrated in this canton or registered in this canton. And after they approved or they say yes, you can go there. So this is kind of the challenge that refugees, especially refugees who have reasons to do that. Sometimes, yes, I feel during this visits and these conversations, I feel that they say like it's good to have these permits. You have more rights, more than other permit holders, through integration, to having travel document, or to do something like that. At the same time, sometimes I feel like I'm not recognized refugee. Just feel like I'm like the other people who has a temporary protection or extended procedures, or not getting recognized status yet in specific cases or specific issues. So this is the problem, that the federal system of Switzerland, sometimes it's good, as Anja said, it's encouraging other countries to take initiatives to take experiences from other countries, but in sometimes it depends on luck. Sometimes when I take the conversation with people who are living in my canton, they say we are surprised why they sent you here. This canton, even no one university we have here. We're sending our children and to other countries to study. Even the place where I'm residing in, no one library or no one place that you can, like social hub or something, that you can to get to know people or to make friends or something like that. But yeah, it's really something hard. But as Anja said, it's better to educate the refugees, or to make the access of information easier to overcome these challenges and these issues.
I can comment a little bit on this, because you have, of course, your personal experience, and I have to say that Switzerland has made a lot of progress with regard to integration. There is a recognition that, especially after 2015, was a recognition that with the high number of people staying, being recognized, where you know that they will be staying, this became much more of a debate. And I'm not sure, I think it was 2018, 19, they adopted an integration agenda on federal level. I mean, it's the federation and the cantons have set certain goals were for the integration of refugees, and cantons are getting more money to support refugees into the integration process. It's a whole agenda with different points, and also giving incentives. Like the cantons only get some of the resources, the financial resources, they only receive if they can have programs in place on certain themes. So I think that's a big step forward to push basically the integration agenda. For us, it's too early. We haven't yet been able to have a full assessment, because you need to give this a little bit of time to really see how it applies in practice. So just on political level, and to the question that you received, yes, I mean, there are discussions. Yes, the authorities have put something in place, and it's being monitored. There are ongoing discussions, there are evaluations, where shortcomings come to the fore, are being addressed. So that's a very positive process, because it has not been there before. Also, the awareness that integration is a very important topic, and it requires federal and cantonal and communal authorities to work all together. That's really very, very positive. We still see, I mean, what Mohammad describes is, I mean, you don't tell me something new, because we see the challenges of, for example, in the area of education. There is a debate, at least there's much more of a debate on the fact that the authorities very quickly try to integrate people into the labor market with low-paid, low-skilled jobs like restaurants, cleaning, and so on, instead of looking to potential and supporting people a little bit to have an education where they can better use their skills, but also better contribute to the society. At least there's a lot of a lot more debate on this than it was like 5 years ago. So I hope things are changing, and I know that in some countries already things are changing. There is another difficulty challenge that you described, which is very common, how long things take. And it's that systems are complicated. That's something which is a lot more difficult to address because it's not specific to the asylum sector. It's a complex system, complex country where you will find that sort of approach. Everything needs to be well examined and everything needs to go through a specific procedure across every topic. So basically, that's something which is part of system and culture, and it's much more difficult to change. With regard to the recognition of qualifications, we have been pushing Switzerland, and we haven't yet succeeded, but at least we have some conversations because there's a European qualification passport that UNHCR set in place with the Council of Europe, which we try to promote, where qualifications can be recognized more quickly. But as I said, Switzerland is not yet part of it. We also, we push this topic, and especially, I have to say, with the arrival of the refugees from the Ukraine, it has been becoming much more pertinent because this is a very well-educated group of refugees who all face the same challenges. Plus, they have not such a good status as you have. So the debate is starting, of how certificates, documents could be recognized more quickly. But I have to say, it's still taking much too long. It's far too complicated. And if I hear that what you're describing from the Netherlands, that would be a goal, of course, which we would like to achieve here as well.
Thank you. Anna.
Thank you. I would have this. Well, it's really fascinating, and I have more questions than you can imagine. Because I am convinced that there is in any country an average citizen, and I think in the same way there's the average refugee does not exist. Not everybody is young, fit, talented, stubborn, and lucky as you. So there are all refugees. What would you say to your father if he would have been a refugee, or to your grandfather if he had come with you, or to your nephew, 16 or 15 years old? Also, I wonder if you have a sense of what would have been your journey if you had been a woman, if you had been gay or lesbian, or if you have been handicapped. I wonder, with all the assets that you have, you were into so much trouble. If you have additional obstacles, are the responses from the governments fit to the average refugee and not fit for the others, not fit for the old, not fit for the young? So I wonder what the journey of them, and I can possibly, if you could both possibly could comment on this, and also I'm convinced that we learn much more from our mistakes than from our successes. Successes usually go easily and we don't realize, but when you have a mistake, then there's this one wrong because I did it wrong. If you go back in time and you said, this is the thing that I would have done differently and would have changed the course of everything, but can you identify a moment like that?
Yes, as you said, Alejandro, during this journey, I met many types of people, even in the Netherlands or here in Switzerland. Different needs, different challenges, different, as you said. Some people they worrying about the health caring, or people worrying, a few people worrying about education or practicing opportunities like that. As Anja said, here in Switzerland, the authorities or the own systems or integration initiatives, they focus mainly on integrated the refugees and labor market. Here in Switzerland, as a refugee and as someone would like to continue and to still working on what I worked before in Jordan, I really have a lot of initiatives and a lot of ideas to do here in Switzerland, and it will be something positive for the refugees and the authorities as well. All of the challenges and the current problems, of course, that might be solved in the future through including the refugee in raising their voices and explaining their challenges, explaining their overviews, how these challenges can be solved in cooperating with the authorities or the governments or the cantons as well. And also here in Switzerland, as I told you, sometimes you're still thinking about your current challenges. After overcome these challenges, you will be able to thinking about for example, I met many people, they said we would love really to learn the language, but we don't have, we're not feeling comfortable at the moment. We don't sure about what the procedures, if we're gonna get home or not, if we're gonna stay in this camp or not, if we don't know what might happen. So this is the problem. So from my overview, I think when the refugee, they have a clear map or clear ideas about the current and the next situations here in Switzerland, of course, it's gonna make a huge sense. And also, as I said before, there are opportunities for both sides, the refugees and the host communities, especially here in Switzerland, because the labor market, as you said, you have many different issues in the labor market of Switzerland. And also regarding the education, of course, always in the host communities, and based on my experience, enabling and involving the educated people and educated activists and refugees in different societies and communities, of course, it would be an added value to focus and highlight the issues and the challenges, and of course, it will be more easier to be solved. And yeah. Thank you.
Maybe I would like to come back to your point, because I think it's very good that you raised the point of people with what we call specific needs. I mean, and for us, that's a group on which we focus a lot, because indeed we see that those people don't have the same chances than somebody like Mohammed, who already is struggling. But if you have additional constraints, it's a lot more difficult. So for us, what we see is that the system is more made towards, the ideal refugee. So very often, people like with those sort of specific needs are being left out, or these needs are not even being identified and not being or sufficiently addressed. So for us, that's a very important topic to think about the groups that you have just mentioned, and to make sure that those needs are being identified and addressed early on in the process.
Thank you.
So there's a question here regarding mental health and psychosocial support. If these kind of services are still available in Switzerland?
Yes, they are available, but we haven't talked about that. I mean, the current situation is very difficult in Switzerland, because the number of people who came recently is much higher than in previous years. Plus, we have 80,000 people from refugees from the Ukraine being hosted here in Switzerland. So structures are real. I mean, the government everywhere is really struggling, to accommodate those people, to attend to them. And the most challenges it's not even the money. The most challenging part is finding experts who can help, can work in reception centers. And especially in the area of mental health, there's really already a shortage of experts, even for Swiss people. So that's a big challenge. It has been a challenge before, but in current times where everything, all structures are stretched to the limit, it's a big issue.
Thank you. Another question?
Sorry to abuse your presence, but
We have some 7 more minutes or a few more minutes,
Thank you.
as much as I think if there are a number of questions still in the
you know, we are organizing at Grey Cells in the center, what we call intergenerational dialogue. And one of the focus is the rights of older people, which are human rights. We're going to address that part. But the second part of the dialogue, we're going to address the relationship between the different generations. And we are asking, we're sending questionnaires to adults, but also to children and younger persons, if they have any kind of relation, what kind of relation they have with parents or grandparents, and if they have had an impact in many more ways than just the language or the religion, or inspiring. In your journey, have you been inspired by your parents, your grandparents, a role model, a professor, someone who has inspired you, or it all came from you? You started the whole thing.
Actually, I was thinking about this question 2 days ago. Sometimes I'm just thinking in myself regarding how all these things happened in 1 year. To seeking asylum for 2 times in 1 year, to be in Netherlands and come back here to Switzerland, and also sometimes I'm thinking about Syria because before the conflict in Syria, my family and I we were living in the United Arab Emirates as immigrants. So we decided to come back to Syria and stay there because it's enough to living outside for long years. So but unfortunately, when the conflict and the war started in Syria, we had to flee the country. I was thinking about Kofi Annan because he was one of people who had a real proposal and real solution to end the conflict and to find a solution to the crisis of Syria. Unfortunately, the international community was not serious to dealing with his initiative. So sometimes, of course, I'm looking for each experience of many people, like elderly people or people who has long experiences in their lives. I enjoy to join discussions with them, to hear from them based on their experiences. And sometimes even in my canton in Togo, sometimes I meet people who they worked for long years in different sectors and different fields, and sometimes when I just joined a discussion with them, they asked me, how old are you? When I told them I'm 28 years old, they said, you are discussing us as someone in the same age. So yeah, of course, I'm always saying that I never choose this situation by my own will. Also, the other 100,000 and millions of refugees as well in this world. But of course, all of us, we can overcome these challenges together when we hear to each other's and when we understand each other's, and when we respect our perspectives and opinions and ideas. Of course, I believe we can reach the solutions together.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This sounds like a nice endpoint. Well, we have certainly been inspired by you, and no matter the age. And I think I learned a lot. So thank you, Anja, also. I didn't mention in the beginning that we are colleagues from long ago. And so I can relate to your comments also on the number of European countries, and being German myself too. I think some comparisons to that country also relate to us. Let us hope that we all get inspired now to make the Swiss system even better. And maybe we can influence the cantonal system in Geneva a little bit. And we hope that, Mohammed, you actually make the move from Thurgau to Geneva, and that you succeed in that in the next few months. Certainly, we would like to welcome you for our next intergenerational dialogue. But I know that you have something to say to us, because you will be in December in Geneva, and that relates to UNHCR. And so we have many inspirations, but why don't you mention that, and then we can close.
Yeah, of course. As a part of the organizations who got funded from the Global Refugee Youth Network, my organization recently received a funding grant from this organization, and yesterday they invited me to participate during the Global Refugee Forum, which we held in Geneva in December. Also regarding, thank you for your kind wishes. So also, I'm always saying that, and I'm always saying to the people who has the same sufferings and challenges. Of course, we are here in this country as refugee, and as people, we hope and we aspire to be integrated as soon as we can. Because for me, I lived for 10 years in Jordan, and I will be well integrated there. I was and I was still representing the country of Jordan, because I have a lot of memories there, and even here in Switzerland, I'm grateful to everything they provide in regard the challenges and differences and all that things we mentioned now. Yes.
Thank you. Anja, you have a final word, or?
Actually, I thought that Mohammed has had such a nice final words that I would like just to subscribe to what he said. We should all aim at trying to improve how we live together, work together. And
Thank you.
I wonder if Mohammed in Singapore would like to say something to close. The Godfather, Singapore.
There was a connotation to Godfather, which we don't have. Sure.
Well, I wasn't planning to say anything, but given the opportunity, I'll just say that I'm very pleased for Mohammed that this has worked out very well for him. I wish we had a bit more time to hear of his future plans in Switzerland. I'm particularly keen to follow what he's going to do, not just for himself, but what he's going to do to help other refugees, and how that will work out for him in the context of a changing Swiss landscape within the for the refugees and the integration program. So I wish you very well, Mohammed. I will definitely keep in touch with you, and hopefully maybe perhaps we'll have another collaboration with you and Miss Anja Klug. Thank you so much for this opportunity.